anytime I'm setting up a new thing on my site, I know I have to have the route and the method. It's the same thing over and over again. So the route is going to be success. We're going to go to views.success. And then we're going to set up the method success. I'm actually going to copy this one entirely. Change this to success. Right? Excellent. Here's the thing though, how do I make this get over there? I can't render anymore, so I do what? Redirect. And when you're redirecting, you want to redirect to the route, just like you would lead to it from your HTML page or your front end or your form action. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So again, let's talk about what these separate routes are doing. The start route is my route that renders the page that has the form on it. My process route is the route that is actually going to chew through the data, save it in a database, do something else with it, right? And then my success route is the route I go to after the processing is finished, so that being on this page won't make my user accidentally submit anything twice. Still with me?
So we won't get that box that pops up to confirm it anymore?
Not if you refresh, only if you hit back, right? Because think about it, it's 3 steps now. Form, submission, success. So if I go success and I try to hit the back button to get back to the form, that's when I'll get the pop-up. I'm sure that's happened to you on a site before. Where I'm just trying to get back to the form, but it sends you back to the process route. So you have to hit back twice. And sometimes you hit it too much and you get frustrated, right? It happens to me a lot. Let's see what happens. We're going to get a couple errors, and that's okay. We're figuring out how to troubleshoot together. I made a lot of changes, so I'm going to shut down my server and restart it. All right, let's go back to the home page. Go. Everything's okay so far. Submit. Oh no. Name error at process start form. Name redirect is not defined. What is our first troubleshooting step?
Comments?
What was the first one on the list that we made together?
Redirect.
Right. Get the comma, quotation,
Did I import the right thing?
There you didn't redirect.
Oh, it's not? Uh-oh. I got erased. Come on.
Yeah. It's behind here.
There it is.
Import the right thing.
Did I import the right thing? I didn't. Redirect is very complicated, so it does not come with Django by default. It only wants to load it into your project if you know you want it for sure. Okay?
Oh, I gotta go
That's why
back.
we have to import it. So, now we have redirect. Let's refresh. Let's go back to the beginning. Go. And success. Excellent. Here's a problem though, right? I printed out my form here and then I printed it out again here and now it's empty. Sometimes when I don't know where things are happening, I like to print myself a little message that tells me what route I'm on. On route, process, form, caps lock, print. If you're not printing everything, then you're not doing it right. This is the job. On success route. Excellent. So let's go through that process again and see what's happening. Go and all right, success, cool. So we see on route process start form, and then I see my form, and then I'm on my success route, and my form disappears, right? So let's say that I had some data in that form that I wanted to use somewhere, like the name or something, right? Well, a lot of people would start their context, start something called name maybe, and then say request.postName, right? how we would grab the name from the post. But the post doesn't exist at this part of the route, right? If I hit submit, I should get an error. There we go, multi-value key dict error. So the last cohort made t-shirts with this error on the back. Because this is the error you're gonna see the most frequently from this point going forward. And what this error means is you are trying to use a key that does not exist where you think it does, right? So it's saying it can't find name, right? But if I went and checked my form, I would see that the name is called name, and that's fine. If I print out my form when I get the request, I see the name. Let's see, it's right here, name Ann, right? But then if I look at my form on my success route where I'm trying to put it in context, that's the most important part, right? The form doesn't exist anymore. That's because everything that happens in one cycle, right? You go to this route, you see this page, you go to this route, you see this page. When you use the internet, it seems like things are consistent across a lot of pages because developers and designers make it look that way. But a lot of times you're grabbing brand new resources each time, right? Every time I load the nav bar on a site, if I go to a new page on that site, that nav bar might be getting reloaded and I'm just not noticing. It might happen so instantaneously fast, but it's not technically the same, right? Single page applications like Facebook, for example. You get the little notification in your navigation bar, right? But you don't see the whole page flash. It's just that navigation bar that's refreshing, right? So there are different pieces of your site that can update at different times. But how is that possible if everything gets lost every time we navigate? Does anyone know what it's called? Session. I heard someone say it. Yes, session. When you're logged into your email, when you're logged into the Coding Dojo site, right, you are starting a session with that site. That means that it talked to your browser and it's saying, hey, I recognize you, right? Here's all of your stuff. Does that make sense? Do you ever log into a site, you've been logged in your whole life and suddenly you go there one day and you're not logged in anymore? And you're like, crap, I don't remember my password. That's because they did something to delete or unhook your session. So that website no longer recognizes you and it says, okay, hey, you need to log in now. And once you log in, you begin a new session, right? So every time you use websites now, you have to accept that cookie policy, right? That's all we're gonna start doing. So up to this point, we don't have a database, we have nothing. We have just been using everything on the surface level. So we have to make something to put data in. And our first step for saving data is by using session. Make sense? Let's try it.
What do you use that?
What?
What do you use that?
Session. You say, why are we using it?
Where do you use that?
Oh, well, let's find out.
Same stuff you.
So, process start form, right? Session is going to be something that will capture data and store it. So if the only place I can grab my form data is the route it submits to, that's where I need to stick stuff in session. Does that make sense? Session's really easy to use, luckily. Let's get rid of context. We don't need it. I'm gonna get rid of everything on my success route because we're dealing with process right now. This is the route that my form submits to. This is where I can see the data when I print it out. So this is where I can start sticking stuff into session. The way that I use session is just by saying, hey, session. And the way you say, hey, session in Django is by saying request.session. That's how you call on it. You're saying, hey, I'm using request.session. Great. And then you have to give it a space in memory to actually put your data. So let's say I want it to be name. Let's make it username so they're different. So when I say request.session username, this is creating a place in session called username for the very first time because it's never been set before, right? And then where do I want to grab the name from? The form, right? Which is request.post. And in here, I have to match that name I put on my form on the front end. Does that make sense? If you ever need to check it, print it out. Go find where it printed out and see what you called it. Here it printed out name. So name is what I have to call it when I try to grab it. Remember, it's like catching a letter that someone's flinging at you in the internet land, right? So here we go, request.session username, excellent. So now when I redirect to success, I should be able to see what I put in session. So let's print out the username and see if we can still see it when we hit the success route. Again, I'm not gonna know where I am unless I tell myself where I am. Success route. So that's what's gonna happen. We are going to, 1, render a page that shows us a form to fill out. 2, we're going to submit that form to this route. And then on this route, we're going to open up session and grab the name that came with our post request. And then 3, we're gonna redirect to a success page where we actually render something and then use that session data in some way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And now, once we get here, that request.session username is available across the entire website until that person logs out. And all logging out is doing is clearing the session. Okay? Actually, that part shouldn't have been in quotes, but it's whatever. But let's just see this part, because you literally clicked whatever. Okay. Shut it down, restart it. When that happens, I'm literally just smashing Control-C on my keyboard, because I don't like waiting for it to go through all the stuff. Get a little, like, you know, like, be a little less gentle with your terminals. Everyone's very afraid of it, but you'll be fine. Like, it's like wrestling a bull. All right, speed, operation error, process start form, no such table Django session.
Amen.
This is another common error that you will get as we start to use session, right? Everyone knows that warning they've seen every time they've started their server, right? The one that says you have unapplied migrations. This is how you can finally get rid of it. Shut down your server, and now you're gonna say, what? Python manage.py migrate, right? So migrate, what migrate does, and we'll start manually migrating more frequently, migrate creates database tables. And what is session but a temporary database, right? That's all it is. Session is just a temporary database that we're creating, but we have to tell it to migrate over to be able to use it. Because again, these things are huge, and you don't want to do them if you're not going to use them, right? So let's migrate. Some of you are doing this already, and that's fine. This looks really cool. You get a lot of awesome OK messages. As long as you see session in there, you're good. Now we can go start our server again. See, system check identified, no issues. I don't even see a message about migrating anymore because I did it already. Let's go, and I might still get an error, and that's fine. Sometimes my server hiccups. There we go. Success! Look at that. So I got my form, which was correct. It was a post request to process start form. I hit my success route, and then I see Ann, right? Ann is request.session username. Excellent. Oops. So now I have the name Ann available across any page on my site, whether this was 100 pages or whatever. I will be able to use Ann until I cleared the session, which is really cool, right? Temporary database. So the cooler thing about it, which I've noticed a lot of people don't know yet, which is great because I love teaching new things, is that session is available on the front end without you having to put it in context. And here's why. Isn't that so cool? I know. All right, so if this is our front end, and yeah, we'll make it red. And let's say this is our back end, green, right? We've been making the request response cycle this whole time.